welcome back with yet another episode of this special interview series brought in collaboration with the Anandaya magazine, brought to you by the Authors Association of Ananda College. So now, today in this very special interview, I'm joined with one of the eminent personalities of our alma mater. He's not only a distinguished Anandin but also a scholar who has reached to the pinnacle of his academic pursuit. Not only his academic pursuit but also in fostering the future generation of our country. So now he has not only achieved remarkable success but also reshaped the horizons beyond his research, also joined by his academia in shaping the future lives of our undergraduates. So it's none other than the Emeritus Professor Prof Senavirathna who is joining with me to this very special interview of Anandaya magazine. Well, to start off this interview with some contemporary questions, so let's draw back your memory during our school days. Before going to the school days, your early childhood days with your family, your village life, and how you were brought up with your parents and all your siblings and all.
First of all, let me thank the OBA for this invitation for an interview for me to recall what my earlier life has been as an Anandian and even before that. My parents, my father was from Minuangoda, and he was a landed proprietor, and there was my mother, of course, was a housewife, and she spent all her time looking after us and teaching us and so on. She was a true housewife. I had a brother and a sister. Unfortunately, my brother, who was the professor of archaeology at Peradeniya, passed away on the 17th of January this year. So we miss him a lot, and also his contribution to the country has been tremendous as a very senior archaeologist. And I have a sister who is also a housewife. I have 3 children. That's Revata, the eldest, is a research engineer. Migara, the second, is an anesthetist, and Minara, the youngest, is in the garment industry. Now, unfortunately, all 3 are now in UK, and myself and my wife are left alone here in Sri Lanka. One of my most disappointing things has been that I never could get my children into Ananda. Somehow there was a time when the college had stopped the primary school for many years. It was not only me, a lot of my classmates who had children, they finally ended up in Royal and other schools. My sons went to St. Thomas's finally, but they have done well, and I'm glad about that. Okay. My wife is an anesthetist. She's still working and actively involved in anesthesia practice.
Right. So with your life at Minuangoda, then you're joining one of the most prestigious schools at Sri Lanka, Ananda College, alma mater. So how did your life at Ananda unfold, and what were your remarkable memories that you would love to share with us?
My entry into Ananda is a very interesting one. My father was an old Thomian, so he was very keen that I should go to St. Thomas's. But I went for that particular interview or test or whatever they called, and I was only 4 years of age at that time, and I failed the entrance test. So basically you can call me a reject from St. Thomas's Fair. Then what happened was, my parents were very much religious oriented. We used to spend a lot of time at Vajirarama, and one day when we were there, Bhikkhu Narada, Reverend Narada, was sweeping the ground, and he had asked me, "Puta koi iskole yanne?" So I had shouted at him and said, "Iskole naha mata." Right? So then he scolded my parents also, and then immediately wrote a letter to Mr. L.H. Ananda. I am ever grateful to him for taking me into Ananda. I believe the Mettananda oration or something is going to be held next week at Ananda. So I am hoping that I will be informed by the principal, who promised to send me an invitation for that function for me to attend. Then I was 4 years, as I said. By that time, because I did not have a school to attend, my mother had taught me everything at home, all the sums, the letters, everything. So when I was taken into Ananda, which was in fact in July of 1951, I was straight away put into the upper kindergarten class because I knew many of the things. I was in fact 1 year younger from my class right along. And the other interesting thing is, I wonder whether you know Mrs. Suryarachi. She was a teacher. She and I entered the school at the same day. She as a teacher and myself as a student, you see. So anyway, we had a very good grounding from our primary school teachers. I still recall all the names of these teachers, and particularly the Mrs. Sumana de Silva, who was one of our upper kindergarten teachers. And anyway, one thing that was common to all our teachers at Ananda, both throughout school, what I appreciate is their kindness, their ability to get us involved in learning. That doesn't mean that we neglected our other extracurricular activities and also the other activities in the school. And we were always involved with it. My school friends were also very, very amazing, very good people, and I still keep in touch with them, many of my school friends. So they are also old like me, but we have common grounds. Now that was my school days. At school, I didn't do any sports as an extracurricular activity. My special interest was in cadetting. And I was both a senior cadet and a junior cadet and a senior cadet, both. So we went to camp at Ditarava. At that time, Mr. Rajapaksa, our former principal, was also a senior cadet teacher, cadet officer. Then when we had a very good training, we had a lot of discipline imparted to us, which was very appreciative. Now, when it came to the O-levels and the A-levels, another thing that most people do not know is that we had to sit for the O-levels in Sinhala, but the A-levels in English. So this switchover, I was able to do because my mother coached me to a large extent. And we had teachers also who concentrated on that switchover, which was not easy. Many of my friends at school, classmates, found it difficult. In fact, there was one chap who used to write whatever the lecture that was given, he used to write it in Sinhala, in the English language, but in Sinhala, and then we used to get together and help him to convert it into English and understand. He also became a doctor in the Colombo Medical Faculty. He entered 1 year after me, but that was the type of education that we had.
So with that, school life at Ananda, you have successfully passed it, which is the advanced examination and the admission in the prestigious Faculty of Medicine at the University of Colombo. So how did your life as an undergraduate go? So what are the most memorable paths that you would love to share with us as an undergraduate, especially as a medical undergraduate, which is not easy, and most of the students don't get that opportunity to be a medical undergraduate, especially during your age.
Yes.
The intake was really small. Out of many students who faced the exams, it was a very small proportion of students who got selected to the medical faculty. So how was that experience?
In fact, I must say that at that time, Ananda's engineering results were superb. We had out of 60 students in the class, 45 got direct entry into the engineering faculty. And other than that, there was about another 8 who got direct entry into the into the physical sciences stream. For medicine, only myself and my good friend Dr. S.P. Javadhan were the only two who entered from Ananda. There were other Anandiyans in our batches, in our batch and the junior batch, but they were not direct entry. They came through Pembroke and Aquinas and various other, they sat for the A-levels in their second or third attempt and then got into Anand. So it was, our college, it was not really that the teachers were not good, the teachers were excellent. Mr. Panika, Mr. Senavirathna, for zoology and botany. They used to go to so many other schools and teach those students as well. But somehow or other, I don't know whether it was in our case, in the bioscience stream, the switch over from Sinhala to English played a part. Because it was more essay type answers that we had to write, whereas the physical sciences and the engineering stream had mostly maths and that kind of thing. So maybe that played a part. But I'm glad to say that in the few years after that, we caught up, and our admissions was very good. So right along we have maintained that, but I think in the recent past there has been some problems.
I think in the currently
we are attending to that because even
because also many Anandis have joined the medical faculty.
Yes.
So that was your entry to the medical faculty. How was your life as an undergraduate medical student unfolded?
Well, it was very interesting. Now, for us to the teachers whom we encountered there were also unique personalities in the country. Professor Carlo Fonseca, then Professor Koch. Like that, there were so many who were not only academically very top quality, but they also were good teachers. At least in the first 2 years, we encountered people who helped us to manage our new life. So it was very unique experience for me, and some of the teaching methods, some of the teaching attitudes that I have imparted as an academic have been what I got from them, and that was very, very unique for me. Now, as academically, I was an average person, I would say, or a little more than, slightly more than average. I got second class honours in the second MBBS exam and second class honours in the final MBBS along with the distinction in obstetrics and gynecology. And it was, I think, a lot of the time in the medical faculty I also got involved. I was the secretary of the Buddhist Brotherhood, and the religious part was there always. I think that came from Ananda. Starting from the Tabbove Sasanavan Sahimi, who was our primary school Buddhist teacher. Then there was Reverend Kotagama Vachisara, who was a famous person, and it was while we were at school that he got his PhD, and those were all things that encouraged us also to get on with it. And in the medical school, we continued with it. And the thing was that right along at medical school, the kind of training that we had was something that was of practical value. You see, now I feel very sorry when I see people just prescribing over the phone. After all, if you are a doctor, you have to examine a patient. You must speak to the patient. And we had a lot of experience in that. Of course, it was a tough life because medicine was not easy. We had to break rest, and all the time the practical part of things had to come in there. It was not easy, but we managed. And when we went to the wards, we had chaps who were brilliant with their clinical work. So we all got together, and as a team we went and did our work, and we had to sort of make sure that things were ready for the clinicians who came, and so that we could make our presentations of all the case histories and examinations and so on. Now, in medical school, there was really a lot of opportunity for us to do the work in a very practical way. There was no sort of hesitation about that. So we learned, and we were able to enjoy ourselves also, organizing various events and so on.
Well, that was your life as an undergraduate at the Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo. So then afterwards you graduated with your MBBS and you joined your post-intern time. So before joining the same faculty as an academic, so I think there are some important scenarios that you would love to recall in your post-intern time as a
very much so. I would say that my main advances I made, or the push that I got as a post-intern was very important for me. I trained under Professor R.P. Jayawardena, Mr. Jayawardena's brother, and he was my mentor right along. And Professor D.A. Ranasinghe, who was an old Anandayan and a president of the OBA at one time. And all very strict people. Professor Ranasinghe imparted to us the importance of being punctual and being very accurate in our clinical work. So after my internship, which I did in Colombo, I was posted to Vadulla General Hospital as a OPD medical officer. That was a unique period for me. I don't think very many medical officers have experienced that kind of thing. They have also been very, very advanced things people had done during their internship and post-internship. But I had a unique opportunity in Vadulla, where I was stationed, to visit almost 80% of the state health facilities in this country, which really molded me in tracking towards public health. I loved it. How I got that opportunity was because my good friend, Dr. Palita Vidhanagama, was the estate's MOH. I was staying at his place. I had no accommodation, so there was the hospital didn't have accommodation for me, so I stayed at Palita's place. And whenever he went on a circuit, I would have done extra turns at the OPD, sometimes almost 22 hours, so that I could gather or collect all that period of work. And in lieu of that, my chief medical officer at the OPD allowed me to go on these trips, sometimes 2 days, 3 days, 4 days at a time. And I saw every aspect of medicine that was practiced in maternal and child health on the estate. And as you would understand, estate medical facilities were terrible. The living conditions of those estate workers were terrible. And their facilities that they got was essentially from a state dispenser or some kind of a junior person like that. But at the same time, I could see that we had in the country a very good midwifery system where referrals would be done, and I really used that knowledge that I gained during that 1 year throughout my career. I have in fact written more papers on the public health, and I have supervised and examined at public health in community medicine, the people who are doing their PhDs and their masters. I have supervised them and I have trained them. So all that came because I got that start in my post-intern period. So it was a very, very unique experience. At the end of 1 year in Badulla, the position felt vacant in our department in the faculty, and I applied for it, and I was selected.
That was the start.
Start of my academic career. First I was appointed as a registrar, and then subsequently when the permanent post felt vacant, I applied and I got it. So that was after 3 years working as a registrar. Now once I was working as a junior lecturer, almost immediately I applied and I got during those days we were given what is called no pay leave. You had to go and find your own job in UK, study or train yourself and get through the exams and then come back. So once again my training in UK, I got in two excellent units. One was at St Albans, the other one at the Nottingham University. No, sorry, at the Watford Medical Centre. Now there, after I went to UK, after 6 months I got through my MRCUG exam, the postgraduate exams, and I must say those consultants had a lot of confidence in me. They not only taught me, but they permitted me to do surgeries that I didn't believe that they would allow a foreigner to do. But of course under supervision first, and then they gradually trained me. So for 3 years I worked in UK, during which time, by that time I was married and I had 2 children then. My wife and the children also joined me for a short period. Then she stayed back to do her anesthetic exams, and I came to my job in as a lecturer, as a senior lecturer in obstetrics and gynecology. Now, from the day I returned, it has been a pleasurable experience for me to work in this field, because really I was able to be a very sort of, what shall I say, I would say a teacher who was able to convey to the students the importance of clinical work and clinical training, which was there, was where we had to get the students to take histories, examine. And today we find that there are a lot of shortcuts being taken, which is a very unfortunate thing. And people, under the guise of modernization, they think that by using modern equipment everything is done. Not so. Only when you speak to a patient that you realize what their inner problems are, and you also get to know the patient and you maintain a good rapport with the patient. So that was, I think, very, for my work at the faculty as an academic and as a now after about 5 years of working as an academic, I became very interested in doing some research projects and writing a research thesis. So there my special subjects were blood pressure in pregnancy, medical disorders in pregnancy, and diabetes and high blood pressure were the special areas that I went into. In addition to that, I forgot to tell you that from my school days, I have been mechanically oriented as well. I still have the pedaling car my father bought me in 1949. I still have it. It had lights, it had a horn, all that. Those of course not functioning, but it can still be run. Only today's kids don't like to use the pedaling car, they want the electric ones. So they don't want to bother to see it, but it doesn't. And I think that is why I went on to driving my father's car also at the age of 13, when because I could steer a vehicle very easily. Anyway, so I eventually got on to doing a research degree, and my area was a special area called prostaglandins, right, which is a very specialized subject. And I was fortunate to get a Commonwealth scholarship to work in Nottingham for 1 year, and there again I met another unique personality, Professor Malcolm Simons, who was a person who encouraged people to do research. I mean, all the time he had about 3 or 5, 6, 7 people doing research projects, and his special area was also blood pressure in pregnancy. So it was very easy for me to fit into that system and do it. So, and once I have finished that, I came back to Sri Lanka. I couldn't do a thesis degree in UK because the cost was too much. They wanted me to pay a fee of £5,000, which I couldn't afford. And it was a condition in the Commonwealth scholarship thing that you won't ask for extra money to do a thesis degree. So I came back and I registered with Colombo University, and I have, as my research degree, I have got a Doctor of Medicine as well. Now, that is another story that I would say with a little bit of sadness. After I came back, I had to struggle for 2 years to get the university to approve an examination for me. They thought that since I was a doctor who was practicing clinical medicine, that I should go to the PGIM. At that time I was in the PGIM board of study and everything, but the PGIM didn't have research degrees for clinical people, and no one bothered to check whether this was being done overseas. Of course it was being done overseas. They would do a Doctor of Medicine by research, where you have to do your experimental work, where you have to present a thesis, and then only face a very extensive viva, and then they would give the degree. So my papers were being shifted between the PGIM and the faculty for a period of 2 years. But finally the faculty decided, someone in the faculty, I don't know who it is, realized that other way also it was possible, and then they accepted my thesis for an examination. And again it was Professor Kottekoda who was one time our dean, and also he was a very sort of eminent researcher himself, and Professor Anandaya, my boss, were the 2 examiners, and I was eventually awarded the Doctor of Medicine by research. So that is the thing. But in addition to that, while at the faculty, because I was involved with so many other international activities, right? I got to know people, and we were invited to do the research on fetal ECGs and cardiac functions. As a result of that experience, today we have one of my senior lecturers who has also done a thesis on that, and in the faculty in our department. So we were able to expand on all these things. And the other very serious and very happy thing that I can say is that I was responsible for setting up maternal medicine in this country, right? And so we started a diabetic clinic, a high blood pressure clinic, and so many other clinics which are first time for Sri Lanka, you see, and they are all continuing to function. In fact, our president of the OBA, Professor Kaluarachi, also was able to get a thesis degree and on maternal medicine. So I think in that sense I have made a contribution to the country and also to the to the doctors, because these are areas that the country was not moving into. We were static, doing only the standard things, you know. But now, during the last, I would say 15-20 years, the whole scenario in the country has changed, and particularly in medicine. There are so many professors in our faculties who have done research work and got their degrees. So I'm very glad that I was able to get involved in that.
So with all what you have shared, so you have been instrumental in promoting the horizons of medical studies at the University of Kannada Faculty of Medicine. Not only that, but also your service towards uplifting health, especially the maternal health side in Sri Lanka. So with that, let's move on to your contribution to the Old Boys Association of Ananda College. Not only the Old Boys Association, but also the Old Anand's Medical Guild. Yes. So you were one time the president of the Old Anand's Medical Guild.
Basically, I would say I had more involvement, I had relatively less involvement with the Old Boys Association. I was in the council for two years. But other than that, again, these associations, it was basically the standard thing that was happening. They were involved with the big matches, things like that. But there was no real development in the new areas in the college. And somehow, I think it was in the year 2004 that I was told by one of my friends who was a lawyer, Gominda Astri, I don't know whether you heard, a famous lawyer in Sri Lanka. He was an old Anandian. That there was a law medical dinner that was organized at that time. I really don't know who organized it, but I think it was the lawyers who did it. So then it struck me, and along with some other of my old Anandian friends, why don't we have a medical facility for the college? You see? And when we sat down and discussed things in depth, some flashes of ideas would come to my mind. For example, the big match and other sporting activities. We need sports coverage. Now I am glad to say that the Old Anand's Medical Guild is present with a doctor at every sporting event. You see? And I had heard of people, of candidates, of students getting injured very badly at various things, not in college, at other places. Some of them lost their lives. And around that time, before that, my brother, late brother, he's the one who started Raga at college, Sudarshan Senavirathna. He was the first Raga captain, and at his funeral, people were talking of how he went around and collected all the senior boys, the fit fellows, right? And they started the Raga thing. So, being able to do that, then the dengue crisis came. College has the best dengue management facility as a public health thing. And this is not just hearsay, not to say, dengue tackle kara problem, not like that. Scientifically, we were able to prove that we reduced the dengue. The keto, right? The lava count, when they did, within a few months, they were able to reduce it. And not only that, with the dengue project, we were able to raise the awareness amongst the children, the parents, and the teachers of the need for all this. Then we started the medical center. I don't know whether you all have seen it.
We have used it also.
Yes. There were about, when we started it, it was really, I think, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, when he was the defense secretary, he did up the hostel. His soldiers went and repaired the building and did up the hostel. And he gave us the old sick room and two other rooms to start the old medical clinic, which is still there, right? Now we have shifted to the new building, right? And we have a doctor, a junior doctor and a senior person, a consultant, covering every day that the school is on. And 50 to 60 patients come. The students, of course, after having their fights, they come to get treated for those. But other than that, if a child has a chest problem, various things, we established a rapport with the government hospitals so that we could refer the patients. Until that time, until we set up the clinic there, it was Dr. ADPA Vijayagunodana, whose dispensary is just across, and whose son, he was a classmate of mine from the time we were very small, who is also a doctor, and he was a president of the OAMG at one time. Only Dr. Vijayagunodana is the one who used to treat. Every time a child falls or has a fight and has some cuts or has a cough, and they used to be sent to the dispensary with a prefect and get the treatment. So it was a very rewarding and period that we spent in that we were able to get involved with the Old Anandaya's Medical Guild and bring it up to what it is today.
I think still the Old Anandaya's Medical Guild is giving out a phenomenal service to the students, especially when it comes to, as you said, sports and other extra activities which students take part. So it has been phenomenal in helping out the students also. So serving the school with all your expertise and your experience, and also with your knowledge that you have gained through various exposures, and also your service towards uplifting the academia, the Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo, especially, and not only that, it also beyond in a global platform, not only limited to Sri Lanka but also in a global platform. You have been awarded with many awards and recognitions, especially the President's Award also a few times. So, would you like to share with some of the key positions that you hold in very esteemed organizations, and also some of the very important awards that you have received in your career?
Well, I have been the president of the Sri Lanka Sri Lanka College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Then I have been in the Family Planning Association and been the president of the medical committee, also the South Asian Medical Committee of the Family Planning Program. Then I was the president of the South Asia Federation of Obstetrics and Gynecology for 2 years, and in all these organizations, really that I was involved with, they were changing times. I don't think it is my contribution that caused all that. I feel that I also got into the slipstream of these changes that were taking place all over the world. And in that context, we were able to go global in terms of all the facilities, the teaching facilities that were available. How many workshops we have had for training of doctors, right? A lot. And so I think in that context, I have been very lucky, I think, to be involved in all these activities. And the awards, of course, have been, I think they just came by the way. I don't think that so much so that I have forgotten about most of them. Yes. So
all those were
very gratifying, but the gratifying bit is because we were able to contribute to the development of this thing.
I think all of them were, in recognition of your service that you have done towards uplifting, one side the academia and also the public health in Sri Lanka. So, as we have come to the end of this very important discussion, sir. So, there are many young Anandis who are joining with us, especially who's watching this interview. So, especially as an academic who had been working closely with students, there are many young Anandians who are currently pursuing their higher education. So, one important message that you have to share with them.
Well, there are some things that my mentor, Professor R.P. Javadana, told me a few things. One thing that I learned is that every individual has got something to contribute. Everything, and he has something special. No one is a real fool. If he is not good in one thing, he is good in something else. Right? It is up to us as teachers to look at that or identify that ability of people, particularly as students, and help them to develop it. And I hope I had done my bit. Then Professor R.P. Javadana told me another very important thing. He said, when I joined the university staff, I went to see him, and he said, there are 3 categories of students you will encounter. It's very simple when you think about it. Everywhere it's that, at whatever level. One is the students who are brilliant. They are the top of the lot. You don't have to teach them, they'll teach you. All you have to do is, some of them can go wrong, so just to guide them to that. The bulk of the students that you'll encounter are the people who are the average, and they need some amount of guidance and help to build themselves up. But the ones you have to concentrate most are the ones at the bottom of the lot. Because particularly as doctors, medical people, you have to bring them up to a level, both academically, in terms of clinical expertise, in terms of attitudes, right? So that they can be released to the public. So I think those are lessons that have helped me to take my career along the path that we have gone. And I would tell all youngsters, don't give up. Be patient. Right? Be patient. And it is necessary that if you sort of are not successful in one aspect, you analyze and see, why wasn't I successful? And invariably you will come to a point when you will know what you have to do. So those are the messages that I can give, and I wish to thank Ananda and the teachers who helped us along, and my colleagues who were my classmates and so on, who helped me, who joined in with me in all the activities to help Ananda to be great.
With that great blessing of an distinguished Anandayan who have taken the name of our country to the next level. So not only has achieved his pinnacle of his expertise, but also served the country, especially educating the next generation towards reaching great heights. So we are honored to have been joined with Emeritus Professor Prof Senavirathna, one of our very distinguished Anandayan, in this special episode of this discussion, joined in collaboration with Anand, the magazine brought to you by the Old Persons Association of Anand College. So thank you very much, sir, for joining with us again.
My pleasure.
And on behalf of the Old Persons Association, we wish you thank you, and we wish you all the very best, good health, and all the courage for your future endeavors as well. So with that, we wrap up the session for today. So stay tuned with us as we bring you more and more exciting points from our side. So thank you and have a blessed day.